She's spectacular. She's heavy, she's true, she trails and tracks perfectly downwind. You could lift the boat with that thing. Oh my gosh, you can't beat these old world boats. Isn't that nice? Hi there, this is Captain Q. Join us as we travel hither and yon to show you some great deals on some really interesting boats and maybe learn just a little bit with each one. Hey Randy!
Captain!
Hey, come on over here, buddy. I got a new rig here. What do you think about this thing? I just had to take a quick peek up here, and I think there's a captain's chair I would fit in perfectly. Some time ago, we interviewed a little gaff rig sloop up at the Yankee Boat Yard in Yarmouth, Maine. And that was a Bud Macintosh design and built by Paul Rollins. And Paul is a master builder. He doesn't build Abbot King Rasmussen yachts. He builds really staunch, solid wooden vessels, many of them to Macintosh designs. And some number of years ago, he decided it was time for him to have his own boat. Anybody that's ever thought they wanted to build their own boat, we have brought with us today Bud Macintosh's volume, How to Build a Wooden Boat. Actually, all you have to do is buy this book and you can build this boat we're going to look at. Historically, I said, oh, they're all wooden boats, they're all going to rot and fall apart and go. No, this boat's been out there for 22 years. For the first 5 or 6 years, they never had a bilge pump, an automatic bilge pump on this boat. Right here is the Mickey Finn, a 48-foot yawl that he built for himself. About 1998, he finished it. She's narrow beamed. Her waterline is around 34 feet, 35 feet. She's really, really lovely. It's like old world sailing here, but done with new glues and new techniques and so forth. But it's still a wooden boat. There's all sorts of different types of wood that go into the building of this hull. And one thing that's interesting, there's something called Port Orford cedar, which is what this is. I asked the fellow here locally, why did Paul use this? And he said, because it's very resistant to rot. It's not the strongest wood, but for its given size and so forth, it's very lightweight, and that helps keep the overall weight of the boat down. Then it goes up into spruce and some more cedar above at different places. So it's almost built like a layer cake of woods. While we're down here, that's a cast iron slug of ballast, and I think it's about 9,000 pounds. And you can see where it goes back and meets the deadwood back here. You see little crack lines and so forth. That's just because this boat's been sitting out for almost a year. She has through hull fittings, and she has an engine strainer water intake. Look at the size of this strainer here. That's going to keep logs out of the boat. About a 62 horsepower Westerbeek in here, 436 I think. When I first looked at the profile in this boat, I said, oh my God, this is almost identical to the PB. This is almost the same profile where you have a cutaway forward leading back to this deadwood area with the rudder attached to that. This is set just a little further aft than it was on the PB. The PB might have been this far up. Doesn't seem like much of a difference, but just that extra leverage further back allows her to track very well downwind. With the PB, we eventually put in a spade rudder that was designed by James Taylor in Marblehead, which then turned her sailing characteristics into perfection. This boat, you don't need it. And the reports coming back from both Paul, who owned it and sailed it, and the current owner have all been very positive about her sailing characteristics. They're going to strip most of this paint off and so forth. They're going to ferret out. They're going to longboard the boat. Basically, it's sort of like about a 2-foot long flat sandpaper file, and it's hydraulic, air driven, and it's just going to vibrate. But they're not going to get any high spots or low spots with that. You see that dimple in the paint job up just below the hawse hole up there. It's kind of hard to pick out, but as Robert said, who is the yard owner here, that's because somebody got overambitious with an electric grinder of some sort.
Ah, okay.
And you end up with these low spots. And once you get a low spot in a piece of wood,
can't really add it back in.
Randy, you always ask the best questions. These two little tangs, and there's one just like it on the other side of the boat, they become sort of the whisker stays will attach to that go to the end of an adjustable hole that you'll see up on deck that will shoot out from the bow of the boat about 5 feet or so and allow them to carry a Type 0 big reaching chute. Okay? So it's just a stay for that. And then, of course, down here, who do we have here?
Oh, good old Bob.
That's a serious fastener, too. Look at that.
What do you think of the bilges here? Because the shape is...
Oh, fine. She's not terribly full, and she's got a nice run back in her buttocks here. It gets fairly flat. It doesn't stay really curved back here, which may be part of the reason she goes so well downwind. She has all her tanks under the berths and so forth, so they're down here low. Just while we're down here, we'll look at the propeller. This is good old-fashioned two-bladed prop, and the reason it's two-bladed is that when you are not powering, you will set it up, and I'm sure he's got a way to set this inside the boat so that this prop lives behind the deadwood here, okay? That way it's not out in the water stream slowing the boat down. And this could cost even this boat 1/4 of a knot. So shall we elevate?
Yeah, let's do it.
Hey pal, oh my gosh. You can't beat these old world boats. And you know what I'm reminded of even sitting here already was the boat you shouldn't buy.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, the Firefly.
What is it that triggers that sensation? Is it the combing?
Well, it's the combings, it's the size of the cockpit. We've got the safety bridge deck here that I think Paul Rollins just added to it recently. It's just the scope of everything. It's kind of hard to explain. It's not very comfortable right now because the owner's taken all of the seats home and he's vigorously attacking those to make them shine. So many of the boats we see, everybody worries about water in the decks, you know, and they come out with the water meters and they test it. And then somebody says, oh, the boat's no good, it's got some water under the teak, forget this boat. I would say offhand, probably 95% of those boats are perfectly all right to buy and own. This boat, if you took the water meter down to the hull, you want to find water. This boat absorbs water because it's wood.
So the wood expands and then that closes the seams between the planks.
And it closes the seams, exactly.
Yeah. I'm gonna predict one of your favorite things on the whole boat.
Oh yes, it's just a wonderful old style binnacle cover. It's probably going to be like half a gallon of pump, so you're going to pump out a lot of stuff out of this thing. Notice you see it's all sealed down here, and that's probably glass or some sort of epoxy around there sealing the seams. There's a couple of hatches here, right here. These two, one port and starboard, appear to access the fuel tanks, probably for cleaning out purposes. Here's the Bomar. Now it's fairly light aluminum, cast aluminum. Look at the stuffing box down there. And while you're down there, look at the inside of that cedar down there, that's the hull. It's just dry, and the whole bilge is dry. Here's the handheld shower control that will pop right out, and you can shower right here in the cockpit. Actually, you could plug up this locker here and turn it into a bathtub. Guess where I am? It's the throne. The captain can sit back here behind this really lovely teak wheel. This has got a little grip to it, and I think when you get a little spray on this, it'll have even more grip. Again, in character and keeping with the look and the style of this particular boat. We've got dual engine controls on here. We recently saw a boat with a single control, which we like. Here, this is a big Garmin, and this has a radar and the GPS into it, and they're also merged into the autopilot so that you can set your course on here, push a button, and the autopilot's going to steer to the next buoy. These are Lumar 2-speed self-tailing winches, and they're right back here again. The big ones are aft for the helmsman to control the sail themselves. The current owner has been made an attempt to make this boat as easily sailed by 1 or 2 people. So one reason why these are right back here in his lap. Trim the jib, he's got it right there. Under my throne here, this is nice. We can see the rudder shaft down here, and you can see the cables coming up to it from the wheel. So I can just move this a little bit. I don't want to move it too much. Just wiggle it so you can see. And here's the adjustment nut. If there's any slack in that cable, you can just open this and tighten it up. And boy, that's really convenient. If you have a problem or you don't check your own steering mechanism and something happens to it down there, you're in real trouble. And it's not something that you can readily check on most boats. Also down here too, it's kind of clever. He's put in a clear plastic bottom for this so you can see what's going on with the boat. And what do we have right here?
That's your rudder post, yeah.
Now, if we have a problem, here's where the emergency tiller goes. Right up here. It's just right there in your face. And we got another hole back here. That's for our little baby mast, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yep. And that's where the mizzen goes. And further aft there is ventilation on wooden boats is key to happiness. So look at the size of that Durade box and wind scoop. That's going to move a huge volume of air.
What are these 2 pipes on the back here?
I'm going to do a little guesswork here, but I know that the boat comes with an Aries self-steering wind vane. This is a servo pendulum system, and it's got to be hung off the transom of the boat. Look at the massive big castings for cleats aft here. And they're all inboard, so you can get your lines into them.
Is that for stern line, for dockage?
For dock lines. And also notice on the taffrail back there, which is that piece going across the stern, it's clear under there, you see?
Yep.
So rather than just having the coaming bend around the transom of the boat, it's all open. So if you got a big wave that washes down the side of the boat, it's going to just blow right out through the stern of the boat. Also, while we're up here, what else do you notice outside this cockpit?
Oh, the bulwarks.
Bulwarks.
Giant bulwarks.
And what else do we notice about the bulwarks?
Well, you got a tow cap.
Yep.
And some nice hose holes to let the water drain out.
Yep. Yeah, it's all painted.
Ah.
This is not nice varnish that was painted over. This is original. Cuts down them. That's a lot of tow rail to varnish. And notice where the varnish ends here on this. Isn't that kind of funny looking?
Probably a Dodger.
Yeah, because the Dodger's going to pop up, so the varnish work will be all inside, and the painted work will be all outside. We're on a fabulous deck here. This is a combination of plywood and boards underneath this deck, then glassed over. If you read Bud's book, he'll show you exactly the process probably Paul used to do this. Look at the size of the chain plates on here. These are, almost 3/8 probably, with massive pins through them. Relative to some of the boats we've seen, her beam is 10 foot 10 inches. And I'm going by another one of these big Dorades vents here. Look at the size of this scoop. Now, we're walking by the world's second largest dinghy we've seen so far. Another huge wind scoop with a translucent top, an ideal windlass with a cat underneath it, and the anchor chain dropping right down into the anchor locker right here. Massive bow cleat up here. I'm surprised actually there's only one up here, but it is big and big enough to put a couple of dock lines on. What do you think this thing is?
I'm gonna guess there's a round bowsprit pole.
No, you just didn't guess that.
I was thinking of the J105, the J boats with their little
right. It's actually very much like that sort of thing, a launching type. There's a tube that's going to go out over the bow. This is designed for this boat in particular so that they can carry a giant reaching spinnaker.
Oh,
and it's a top-down furl type of thing. You set the spinnaker. When you're finished with it, you pull on a rope, and it just slides into its own bag. And then we saw the two straps on either side of the bow that were used to help steady that pole out there.
I see two tangs here. Does that mean this is a cutter rig?
Yes, she is a cutter rig. She's got a staysail, and that has a roller furler on it too. The headsail up here has a roller furler unit. They're not on the boat right now. A nice little trough here to carry the anchor chain up so you keep your deck from getting chewed up, and one big fat old CQR up in the bow. More than enough to hold this boat. I like the bow lights up high on the top side of the boat there. Like the look of this cabin trunk. We like these low square trunks. They're really classic with the nearly flat sides. And boy, handrails all the way the whole length of the boat. Look at this butterfly hatch. That butterfly hatch, by that I mean both these sides are going to open up so that you can catch a cross breeze. You get stuck in a marina and the wind is blowing across the boat. You're going to fill it up with air that way.
Yeah, what about this gas tank?
Well, that's the propane tank, and it's unusual. There wasn't a convenient place to put it below decks. And I think at one point with this boat, they had a dinghy that covered over this area too, so it wasn't really visible, but couldn't be much safer. It is exposed to the elements, so you're going to have to keep an eye on it. Let's head south.
All right.
Okay, Randy.
Yeah.
Come on down here. To Captain's Courageous here on the Mickey Finn.
Oh, wow.
Sea Dog always finds a good spot. She's very clever about that sort of thing. I feel like I'm in, back in the days of Captain's Courageous and the fishing boats off of the Grand Banks. And also just lovely old wooden yachts, too. It's a combination feeling down here because there's the semi-rustic quality of Paul's construction, and yet there's that nice sort of salty feel to the whole boat. That is not as short as it looks. There's actually a foothold under that, a very large one that would take both your feet and somebody else's feet at the same time. And that berth will pull out and become a larger single. Beyond it is a storage area on the port side where you might normally find a pilot berth. Look at the deck beams underneath there. too. And look at the finish, and look at the bolts and the nuts and the finishing washers and everything. It's just gorgeously done. Just notice these different slats here. They're a way of supporting a mattress when you pull this seat out. There are huge drawers for clothes storage and so on, all dry, all high out of the bilge. There's a water tank underneath this settee, and there's a water tank underneath the other side. And she carries 136 gallons of fresh water and about 64 gallons in the 2 tanks that we saw back on either side of the cockpit footwell. Now, look at this pilot berth over here. Anybody that goes to sea is going to be comfortable in that. And, of course, you have your lee cloths right here. And you know what it's going to be like down here when you're at sea and you're pounding through the waves? It's going to be deathly quiet down here. Wood is a great insulator of sound. You won't even know what's going on up on deck. I'm at the galley table. This is set up really for 4 people comfortably. Beautiful finish on it. Can you see this heater down here?
Oh, wow.
Look at the size of that. Now, that's pretty brand new, and it's kerosene fired, I believe. And here's the stack for it, and that's going to radiate a lot of heat right into, as well as what's coming off of the drum itself.
So do you have to carry a separate tank for kerosene then?
It does. You have a separate tank, and it's a deck fill in the head here. Let me close this up, and we'll take a look at the galley. Oh, the wood countertop is just wonderful, don't you think?
Yeah.
Now, we've got a cutting board here that was located right over beside the sink and fits right in there, but it'll also fit on top of the stove. We have one nice big sink. And actually, we have pressure water on here. Paul's built-in giant storage here. This is the most storage we've seen in the depth of it. Look how far back that goes.
Wow.
On a more modern boat, all this galley would have been pushed way out to the side of the boat, and you would have lost a lot of good, handy storage. You can store anything you want to here. Good old Paul. He needs a special little fitting in there to hold on to that stuff. Look at the hanging knees in here. Look at the size of the knee for the running backstays, I think that is on there, or just maybe part of the deck support system. And look at this simple little catch here for the top. Isn't that nice?
Is that wood?
A little piece of wood, and it just has a little spring to it. You see, that spring is just the wood itself. And, of course, a little aperitif for aperitifing.
Once you arrive.
We got your electrical battery switches located back in here. She's located way back underneath the bridge deck, so that's going to be in a dry spot. Oh, look at that.
That is tidy.
Look at that. That's just so sweet. You want to go in there and just start unscrewing things. A lot of nice drawers here for storage. Now, we don't have an absolute chart table dedicated here, do we? But on the PB, she was set up in some ways like this. And so what we ended up putting is a board. We'll just use this as a sample that was tilted like so. And you could sit here and navigate with this big board, and it would sit right on top of a cushion. So you take the board away, put your cushion in place, and you've got a really nice big quarter berth. This boat also comes with a set of tank minders, tank tenders they're called.
Oh yeah.
So you can keep track of what fluids are left in the tanks, and there's 5 different tanks to contend with. I think it is 3 water and 2 fuel. Now let's just take a look down here in the bilge for a second, see what this looks like. These are usually terrible places, aren't they? And there's trolls and things that go woof in the night. But in this case, wow, look at that. Pretty clean, pretty neat. You've got a tank manifold there. The engine's right here. Not an unusual place. I just set the ladder off to the side. And I think you'll like this. There's 2 hatches here. And I'll open them both. Now, how's that for access? And we know we can get right to the stuffing box, right through the Bomar hatch in the cockpit and the footwell. Yep. Here's the battery bank. There's one very large D-size battery underneath that black box. And outboard of that is a brand new Raycor there. And again, look at the look at the wood down there. Look at the wood in the bilge. All dry and neat. Sea strainer's right here, handy to check out. Engine starts to overheat. You undo a couple little wing nuts here. Pull it out, clean it out, and you're all set, ready to go. And there's 2 big doors down here in front of this next locker to get to everything else you need to get to in there. These 2 doors down here, lots of access. She still has pretty good headroom. Remember the cabin queue is 6'1".
I really like the feeling of these deck beams here too.
Aren't they nice? Okay, we're up here in the little dressing room area, and here's access. A couple pumps have been put up here. These are installed, and they're going to bring water up from a forward water tank. And we have more underneath here as well. There we go. Now I'm going to step into the head. We have a Levac head here, which is a vacuum style sort of system. And this cover goes down, has a ring on it, which forms a vacuum on the seat area. And when you're finished, you just reach up here and you're standing straight and your head's up, you know, near fresh air and so forth. And you just pump this handle. And it doesn't take very many pumps. There is no door here. It's quite possibly at home being finished. Notice what else is missing there.
Yeah, no sink.
Yep. Gotta brush your teeth. You just go back to the galley and brush. But now, Randy.
Yeah.
We're coming to our favorite spot, right?
I don't think you're gonna have to do the Captain Q measuring stick test on this one.
I think I should test it. What do you think? Look, handholds right here. They never have handholds up in these places. So I'm gonna come over and just swing myself around a little bit, slide down the cushion, and of course, nobody's given me a pillow today. And I still have, oh, look at the size of the bunk on the other side of me. And I'm looking at these really nice deck beams above me, all varnished, all dry, no stains. We've got some port lights here. They don't open, but you do have a very large, probably 4 square foot hatch above us. On the other side, we have more storage here. And these are big and deep for big bulky sweaters and sea boots and foul weather gear. And there's a hanging locker here too. That is
Yep,
the biggest.
That's my bunk.
It's enormous, the size of that chain locker. And you could store any extra sails up there that you want. I'm sitting right on top of a water tank here, and it's got a little clean out in it and a visual check port. Easy to come in, easy out.
Have to stick this dismount.
Pop up.
Oh, stuck the landing.
What do you think about that? Oh boy.
More dry bilge.
Look at that, more
Wow.
dry bilge. We have a settee here that expands itself and it just pulls out like so. And you've got a nice wide berth here. I'd like to sleep with my head aft. It's probably a pretty good idea. I think we can actually even move this thing further out. But right now, it's pretty comfortable. Can we go to sea?
But first, a nap.
A nap.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye, Randy. Thank you. Another fun day, right? On the prowl, on the hunt. We got a chance to look at another wooden boat. We haven't seen too many, have we? For us older sailors, you think back to the 30s and 40s and some of the craft that came out back then. They weren't loaded with bathrooms and 14 bedrooms and all that sort of thing. They were really meant to drive a really slim, well-built, deep boat through the waves. And she's done that. And the reports we've had from anybody that's sailed on this boat is that she's spectacular. She's heavy, she's true, she trails and tracks perfectly downwind. She's in a shop, and the current owner has instructed them to just sand all down her bottom paint, fair up the iron ballast. And we were very happy to have Robert Blood to help us out today. And if you'd like to have some work done on your wooden boat sometime, we would surely recommend him, and I think you'll find his information below. Anyway, rating time. What do you think?
Yeah, what do we got?
It's a 10 because it floats, and we know it floats. Being a wooden boat that's as tight and as dry and as perfect as a fiberglass boat, it's got to be worth another 10, don't you think?
Yeah.
I got to tell you, this would be a really comfortable way to ease out of the world. I'm going to give it another 8.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Wow.
I'm going overboard. It's just such a cool boat, though. And of course, she is a yawl. Can't be all bad, right? There you go. What are that up to?
28.
A lot of people will question, is it really a 28? Gee, there weren't enough bedrooms or bathrooms. But yeah, it really is. If you like what you see, please hit the subscribe button. And if you want to be notified when the next one comes out, please hit the alert bell. And that's not desperate at all. So we're having too good a time doing these things, so you can hit the bell or not. Randy, how would I ever find out what's coming up next?
You can follow us on Instagram here,
Yeah.
or Facebook here. We'll have little previews of what's coming up on our next episodes a little bit early.
That's pretty cool. Previews. You all join me. I'm going to Instagram right now, and I'm going to find out what's coming up next week. Thank you very much.
You know, Instagram's not a place.